Hello and welcome to Dream Team Coach TV, brought to you by Betway. I'm Sean Burke. Joining me is Andy Taylor, Graham Marshall, and a very special guest. He's a former Rangers, Aston Villa and Tottenham Hotspur fullback, a former Scotland international, and not to mention someone who's kept a clean sheet against Leo Messi. It's Alan Hutton. Welcome to the show, Alan.
Cheers, thanks for having me on.
Coming up on this week's show.
And his first touch was off the chest. He banged it up over my head as I'm still running, and he's got it the other side. I went, oh, obviously after the first goal, and he ran away from my corner as if he was stuck in toffee. In terms of Tottenham, they frustrate the life out of me. See, from being Russian and not speaking too much English, I actually got on well with him.
Liverpool's slump continued as they lost 4-1 to Man City at Anfield. The Reds have struggled without a big man to play it out from the back, and things only got worse when Alisson tried to give it a shot himself, committing not one but two clangers in one match, or as it's simply known in Liverpool, doing a Karius. Alan, I'd love your insight as a defender on this, because Liverpool have suffered from some really unfortunate defensive injuries this year. But is it fair to lay all the blame on that?
I don't think you can blame all the blame. I mean, I think if we look at it, the likes of Fabinho and Henderson dropping back did do well in spells. The only problem with that is I think you lose a lot from the midfield. Obviously, the injuries have been terrible. I mean, probably Van Dijk's the last person you want to get injured. And if you look over the last few seasons, they've been a very settled team. They've played a lot of minutes. The changes over, especially this year, which have been a lot, has really hampered them.
Do you think part of it is burnout as well, the way Liverpool have been playing over the past couple of seasons, that's affected the squad overall?
Definitely. I mean, if you look at the way they play, it's very high intense football, pressing from the front, closing down, giving your all. It's going to happen at some point that you need a rest. There was no pre-season, there was no break. So it's very difficult going into this season to keep those standards that high. So I think we're seeing that definitely affect the squad this year.
Alan, have you played in a side where the manager's asking a lot of you week in, week out in terms of the pressing and the fitness levels and stuff like that? Is it really difficult just to keep those high intensity levels up for a sustained period?
Yeah, of course it is. Obviously, especially playing in the Premiership, it's difficult on your body as it is going from week to week. And then training intensity can be also very high. So you obviously have to manage that. And it takes a good manager to be able to see that and obviously implement it. There's been difficult times. I mean, even going into the likes of Aston Villa in the Championship, you're playing every midweek also. So it can be very difficult. Looking back to Liverpool, when they didn't make too many changes, I think that's coming back to haunt them now.
Is that partly why Man City have had a resurgence as well? Because they've always, I mean, it's been kind of one of Pep's hallmarks is his constant rotation.
I think so. I think if you look at the squad, I mean, they've got two players in each position pretty much that's an international player. So to have that luxury of being able to rotate is very good. As a player, I don't like it. I want to play all the time. I don't want rotated. If I'm playing well, I want to play. But that must be the difficult side for some of these superstars. But I think they're seeing the benefit of it now moving forward.
How do you rate some of the fullbacks in the league as a fullback yourself in the top couple of teams like Man City and Liverpool? They have some incredible players.
It's been amazing to see how the full-back position has moved on through the years. I mean, obviously, if you go back further than me, it was a right-back, was a defender. And then obviously my kind of era moving forward, it was attacking, but you also had to defend. Now, if you look at the likes of Cancelo, Trent, Robertson, these kind of guys, the top level in the Premiership, they're actually allowed to just go forward. And what the midfield then does is the midfielder in there to cover the full-back. So they're so key to what teams are doing at the moment, especially like the Rangers as well. So it's brilliant to see the actual position develop.
One insight I'm curious to get from you is, as a former Rangers player and Rangers fan, seeing Steven Gerrard there and what he's done in the SPFL. Obviously, we're quite a Premier League focused show. So I'd say a lot of Liverpool fans have Steven Gerrard in their mind as hopefully Klopp's eventual replacement, whenever that may be. From what you've seen of him so far, do you think he's somebody who could go on to do big things in management?
Yeah, definitely. He's done a phenomenal job up in Scotland. And I think you're right, a lot of the Liverpool fans will be watching to see how he's progressing. He came in a few seasons ago now, and the thing that's so good about him is he was given time. At Rangers and Celtic, it's like you need instant success, but they gave him time to build a team, and he's done that. He's went and picked out gems from down south as well, started to build a squad that can compete with Celtic and now overtake them.
Looking at this season specifically, and I mean this with the greatest respect, how much is that gap at the top down to Rangers being good versus Celtic being quite bad as well? Where's that kind of line at the moment?
Rangers have done really well and they've kept the pressure on. And I think that comes from the likes of Gerrard winning mentality. The likes of Steven Gerrard, I bet he's the same as John Terry, obviously, who I played with. That winning mentality of the training has to be high standard, the game has to be high standard, everything. But Celtic, you're right, have been poor. They're on a downward spiral. I think they need reinvestment in the squad. They need to change their full squad. So it is a bit of both. Rangers have been very, very good. They've ground out results, where Celtic have started to really slip this season.
Do you think one title for Gerrard in Scotland will be enough to earn him recognition? Or do you think he needs to kind of do it for 2 or 3 seasons to really cement that winning mentality?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's about trying to be dominant. I can go ahead and say, I suppose I'm not a player that I believe the title's done now. I mean, we're talking 21 points. I know Celtic have 2 games in hand, but it's too far from the claw back. The next step for him, I think, is to be dominant in Scotland for the next 2 or 3 years, win as many trophies as they can, do well in European competition. If they can get back into the Champions League and do well there, I think that will show how good he is as a manager.
I think it's interesting, the comparison in some ways to someone like Lampard, who got his dream job, if you like, a bit too early. Liverpool's obviously Gerrard's dream job. Of course, he wants to be back there. If Lampard had done well with a different team, if he'd gone to Scotland or if he'd stayed with Derby and got them promoted, and do you think people would have been less harsh to Lampard with the way he dealt with things at Chelsea?
Possibly. Yeah. I think if he did go down the route of the likes of Gerrard and kind of cut his teeth somewhere else, won some trophies or got promotion, I think it would possibly look better, but it must be difficult. I'm thinking about, as a player, say I went into managing and Rangers came and asked me for my first job, it'd be very difficult to say, look, I don't want to take it at the moment. Yeah. But you'd have to ultimately understand the pressures that come along with that.
So have you been keeping a focus on some of your former clubs like Aston Villa or Tottenham Hotspur this season? What have you thought?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Aston Villa's got a massive part of me. I've been there for a long time, obviously. Tottenham, I always keep an eye on them. I mean, Villa, I think, have been incredible. I mean, from where they were last season, it was obviously a massive turnaround player-wise. They just managed to stay up. I think this season, the players that they've brought in have been exceptional. Obviously, signing Jack Grealish to a long-term contract has really helped the team grow and move forward. So they've done brilliant and a chance of top 6, hopefully. In terms of Tottenham, they frustrate the life out of me. I think as a club, they always wanted to play football and do it the right way and play through the lines. And even when I was there, it was about playing football, good quality players, and they've still got that. But Mourinho, I get why he's been brought in to win trophies. He's a serial winner. I totally understand that. But surely you have to play a certain way. If you're that defensive and you're winning week in, week out, I know he got good results at obviously City, Arsenal, and everybody was like, we can deal with this because we're winning. But when you're not winning and you're playing the same way at Brighton away and losing, alarm bells are ringing for me. They're such a talented squad. I think they could play a total different brand of football.
What would you rather have? Would you rather have Jose pick up a trophy, but it meant that he's now got that kind of credibility to stay on for another 2-3 years because he's done that? Or do you actually think maybe if he didn't win it and it could mean a new manager coming in at the end of the season, a new brand of football? I mean, how much does that silverware mean, essentially?
Last time they won a trophy, I was there in 2008. I mean, we're talking about a team that's went through and had some of the best players in the league. Pochettino, one of the best managers. They played great football and they've not won anything since 2008. I think they need to get over that. They need to win something. Are they going to win something this year? I'm not so sure. It's a tough one. I mean, you need to ask the supporters, would you take winning the Carabao Cup just to have a cup? But surely top 4 would be better.
It's difficult because, like you say, at what cost? because I'd love to win the League Cup. I remember 2008. I remember the feeling of winning a cup in 2008 and how fantastic that was. And that's so long ago now. Was I at school even, maybe?
Yeah, it's
ridiculous.
It's genuinely crazy. But I don't know. If I was a supporter and I went every week to watch Tottenham in that beautiful stadium with the stars that they've got, and they're basically playing six at the back and trying to counter, and hopefully Son or Kane can do something. But if they don't, we're struggling. I don't really want to go and pay my money to see that brand of football.
Alan, we're always excited to have an actual pro on this show, as the only time these lads have sprinted in the same way you have on the pitch is to answer the door to a delivery driver. So we couldn't waste a chance to ask you about your career a little bit. And you've had a really interesting career as well, playing for notable clubs, not only in the Premier League, but winning the SPFL with Rangers, even doing a spell in Spain. And one team, now we've touched on it briefly, you've played for, is Aston Villa. And right now, as of recording, if they win their games in hand, they will go above Liverpool and Chelsea in the league. Is this form as much of a surprise to you as it is to us?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a surprise. It's a great surprise. But I think off the back of last season, there was a massive turnover in player recruitment, and they kind of went for quantity over quality, should we say. And they just managed to stay up. So obviously Suso, the then sporting director, left. They've got the new guy in, Johan Lang. And to me, it looks like a Dean Smith team. He looks like he's in charge of who comes through the door. And I think that's the biggest plus side to the team at the moment. Obviously, I said before, Jack Grealish signing that contract, I think allows them then to go and get the likes of Barkley and people like that to really enhance the squad. But they've done so well. I mean, I know it's a strange season and there's been some strange results, especially Liverpool at home, 7-2 and things like that. But if there's any season that they can go and fight for those top European places, and I'm not saying top four, I'm pretty much talking about the Europa places. I think this is the year.
But they've made it look really simple. They've just bought square pegs for square holes, and they needed a right back. They bought Cashin, who's quality. They needed a keeper. They bought Martinez. They needed a striker that actually did a lot more for the team in terms of work rate and everything. And Watkins, I mean, he was quality in the Championship, but I didn't realise he was going to be this good in the Prem as well. I mean, the hold at play. I mean, when I look at some of the strikers in the league and I compare them to what Watkins does, it's unbelievable.
Obviously, the manager's worked with the likes of Watkins. I played against him when he was at Brentford. I think he gives you something different. He used to be a winger. So playing the ball down the channel and getting him to run onto it and take people on, that's normal to him. Yeah. Now he's learning to hold the ball up and do different things. He works ever so hard. So it's definitely working for them at the moment. And I think Jack Grealish, he was the key to it all. Him signing has definitely showed what the team want to do moving forward.
Through your time at Villa, you must have seen Jack kind of really rise through the ranks. I mean, what was your initial impression of him? And then I suppose, how did he become the player that he is today from what you first saw, say, in training, on day one?
He was obviously technically very good. I mean, we all seen him training when he was like 17. And you can see it, this boy's going to be a player. When it's going to happen, when the penny's going to drop, we'll have to wait and see. But the telltale signs were there. It didn't quite break through as quick as what he wanted. He had some kind of off-field issues. Obviously, being given the captaincy was a massive responsibility for him. And I think that was probably the main time where he decided, right, this is my time. Yeah. And after that, I mean, this is a guy who used to come into the training ground first and he wouldn't leave till 7 at night, God's honest truth. Like, they had to come and say to him, Jack, can you go home? Like, it's time to leave. He'd be doing gym sessions. And you can tell by the size of him. Obviously, he always had
pure calves.
But yeah, but that's the crazy thing. He always had that as a young boy, even at 17. Physically, he's strong. His balance has improved. He's running. Even his pace and power has improved. He's worked on his all-round game, and he's really seen the benefits. I think he's a way better player this year than even he was last. In my opinion, he's kicked on again, and the sky's the limit for him. Really, it really is.
I only read about this, but was he actually really close to leaving back when he was in the Championship? Because I know there was obviously the Spurs rumour in particular.
Yeah, the Spurs one was the closest one. I think they were talking around about 15 mark, and I think Villa wanted 20 at the time. So that was the year we didn't get promoted. and they were going back and forth over a couple of million. What a bad decision that was in terms of moving forward. But he's like any player. His heart's with Villa. He's grown up supporting them. He loves them to bits. But if you're in the Championship and a big Premiership team comes in for you, it's only right that you kind of want to go and try the highest level. So, I mean, what we're talking now, 100 million for a player.
Yeah, 20 million would be a bargain. Yeah.
So, do you know what I mean? It's crazy to think that they were haggling over 20 million.
Another player you played with when he was really making his name on the scene is Gareth Bale. What was that like being around Gareth Bale when he was properly making his name for the first time in the Premier League?
When I first moved to Tottenham, he was a real shy boy. I mean, he could only have been about 18 at the time. The talent was there. I remember there was some horrendous stat that every time he played, he got beaten all. Like, it was crazy. And it was kind of sensitive, so that kind of thing affected him. I mean, you need to remember, he was only a young boy. He had a bit of a tough time, and it wasn't until, I think, Aston-Villa was late. He had international games in the January or something, and Bale had to play. He was meant to go to Nottingham Forest, and they didn't allow it, and he stayed at Tottenham, and he eventually played. And it was as he said, you know what? Bugger them all. I'm going to give everything here. It's my turn. And he just went, from that day, he was never left out. He just went from strength to strength. He was obviously a talented boy. In training, he'd done unbelievable things, but it was trying to get that onto the pitch.
One game that really sticks out from that era is the Inter Milan away. Talk me just through like the emotions of that game, and then obviously when it felt like, oh, we're struggling here. What happened? Like, what was the attitude? Did Harry say something? Was it just a case of get the ball to Gareth as soon as you saw what he was doing?
Not at the start. I mean, I'm sure did Gomez get sent off at the very beginning?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm even testing myself here. I'm going back a while.
In the 8th minute, yeah.
So we went down quite quickly. I think we were like 2-0 down or something quite quickly or whatever it was. I don't know. I just remember it being, me personally, it was kind of like this big stadium against this great team, and we're really struggling. And I think a lot of players kind of got lost in the moment a little bit. And it was a case of half time, let's just go out and just give it our all. I mean, we're getting beat anyway. I mean, we might as well just go down fighting. I don't think it was a case of get the ball to Gareth. Obviously, after the first goal, and he ran away from my corner as if he was stuck in toffee. And obviously, I think it was the netty as well. So that was really the night where we've seen the real Bale and what he was actually capable of. And from that kind of moment on, yes, he was playing well before that, but from that moment on, I think that was really the turning point where the world kind of sat up and took notice.
Must have felt some sympathy as a right back for poor old Maicon in that game.
I've not seen him since. I've not actually seen him since.
Yeah, he got a taxi from the pitch out the stadium. See you later, never to be seen again. Yeah, honestly.
I have to ask you about, obviously, in your time at Rangers, you came up against Ronaldinho, Messi, and Henry, and kept a clean sheet against them as well. I mean, what was that like? Must have been an intimidating lineup to see.
Yeah, well, but you know what? It's strange because, see, as a young boy, so really early 20s, you had no fear. I had no fear. Right? So we went into the Nou Camp, for instance, and I was just thinking, this is amazing. I mean, literally, this is what dreams are made of. If you were to lie in your bed as a kid and think, right, what do I want to do when I'm older? Oh, I'd love to play against Barcelona at the Nou Camp or Real Madrid. And getting that chance to do that at such a young age, honestly, no fear. You weren't expected to win anyway. So you might as well go and have a go and give your best.
What were you thinking when Ronaldinho took a first touch and he was running at you? I mean, what was the thought process?
Funnily enough, I remember it must have been round about the start of the game, and the ball's been switched from their right out to him on the left, and I've been sprinting out towards him to try and come, thinking I need to try and get close to him. And his first touch was off the chest. He's banged it up over my head as I'm still running, and he's got it the other side. I went, oh, might not want to close him down too quick next time. But it was just a brilliant experience, just everything. I mean, the guy was sensational. I mean, some of his no-look passing, and it was incredible to watch. But look, we held our own, which was the main thing.
I have to ask, what was your first Old Firm derby like?
A blur, an absolute blur. But you know, it's one of the only games. I've been lucky enough to play in some decent derbies throughout my career.
Scored a good goal in one as well.
Well, that was, yeah, the one and only. That was not too bad, to be fair. But it's the one derby that I can only describe it as you can't hear yourself think. It's not like, so you go to an away ground or whatever and you hear someone shout at you. You can hear the individual voice and you're like, oh, idiot. He's giving you pelters. When you play an Old Firm derby, it's just like a buzz. It's just a noise. It's that loud and intense. They just went by in a flash, the games. Like before you know it was at half time, and then before you know it was full time, and it's what happened there.
Yeah.
But again, great experiences. I loved playing at Parkhead because you got slaughtered from the fans. I just like that. That kind of got me going. I played off that. It kind of got me going even more. So that was my main experiences. Was I loved going there.
Okay, all right. I think that's enough of a warm-up. It's time to put our guest to the test, as Betway have set us a 4-to-score football challenge for our guest, Alan. In front of me here, I have the names of all of the Spurs squad from the 2010-2011 season, aka the same season Gareth Bale scored that hat-trick against Inter Milan that we were just chatting about. So, Alan, I need you to name as many of your teammates from that squad as possible in 90 seconds, okay? All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, and time starts now.
Right, Gomez, Kabul, Woodgate, Ledley King, Asuakoto, Modric, Palacios, Jermaine Jenas, Tom Huddleston, Aaron Lennon, Van der Vaart, Nico Kranjčar. Did I say Modric? Bale,
You did say.
Gallas, Crouch, Sandro was there.
Yeah.
Who was our keeper? Michael Dawson, Jermaine Defoe.
There's a few English boys in there.
And there's someone you were fighting for right back, possibly, as well.
Carlucca.
Yeah.
Did I say him? Chris Gunter. Is he there?
I think he was gone.
Yeah, I think he's gone.
Stephen Pienaar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I'm struggling now.
It's done pretty well so far, though, yeah.
Yeah, you've got 25 seconds. So.
Said Crouch, said Defoe. Robbie Keane, he wasn't there, was he?
He played a few at the start of the season.
Yeah.
We're going on loan, so we've included him though.
Right.
He left in
Said
January.
Bale, said Acosta. I said Gallas.
Yeah.
Did, yeah.
And that's time.
Oh.
I'm missing a goalkeeper. I can't think of who the number 2 goalkeeper was. Cudicini, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always interested to know the names that haven't been said.
Pavlyuchenko?
Didn't say that, I don't think.
No,
Didn't say Super Pav.
Oh, nightmare.
Basong?
No, I missed that out.
Kyle Walker?
Oh, nightmare.
Oh, he went
He did go out on loan, to be fair, but yeah.
Yeah.
If my calculations are correct, you got 21 answers there.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
take that.
Pretty impressive haul there.
Very
So
good.
any notable misses?
I feel like Super Pav, Roman Pavlyuchenko.
Yeah.
Pavlyuchenko.
Oh,
See, the worst bit is I see from being Russian and not speaking too much English, I actually got on well with him.
If you would like to take part in the Betway 4-to-score challenge this weekend, just try to predict the first 4 goal scorers in the fixtures designated by Betway. Get it right and you could win £50,000. Well, that's all from us, folks. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Dream Team Coach TV, brought to you by Betway. And big thanks to Alan Hutton, who has also helped us preview the Man City versus Spurs match in a bonus video on our channel. So check that out right after you watch this. Good luck with your dream teams, and we will see you again next week.